when something happens wrong. That's when it's a problem. When you're out for a month, you know, your items don't get shipped. Yes, you can have help from family. Yes, you can have someone to just come help out when something bad happens. But for the most part, you don't have like an employee. Most people are doing it completely by themselves. So that business is just a handicap business. It's a, you know, eBay's already a
it's a handicap business, guys. Hey, what's going on, loungers? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mason T, and I am a 20+ year importer and product developer. So I want to give a little speech to some of the haters out there and explain to them exactly why they're just being haters. So week in and week out, when I introduce myself as an importer and product developer, the thing is that who is this guy to come out here and speak on business if I don't tell you what is it that I do and what my background is? But then after I tell you it's because I import products and I've been product developing for over 20+ years, then you say, so what? I don't care. You see what I'm saying? So my point is, it doesn't matter what I say. So when you're up to a point where a person, it doesn't matter what they say anymore, you're going to spin it into some form of hate either way. Like you're going to dislike it either way. Now you're a straight up hater. So I want to make that distinction very clear for the people who hate watch this channel and what it is you're doing. And when you're doing that, guess what? As much as you dislike me because you think I'm the bad guy, you've become the bad guy when you do that, because it doesn't matter what I say anymore. There's two types of people that listen to these YouTube videos, right? People who listen with their ears and their minds, and then there are people who listen with their hearts and their feelings. One of them is trained. The other one is autopilot. Which one are you? So when you're like James Helferstay, right? Listens to something, he makes some reaction videos every now and then. The guy says 2 words that he doesn't like, doesn't even finish the sentence. He's pausing the video and wigging out already. Autopilot, heart, feelings. I'm just going to go with my gut on stuff. No research whatsoever, you know? And then there are people who are going to give what the speech is a full fair shake. I'm going to listen to what he said from beginning to end, and then I'm going to logically assess based on what I've heard. I'm going to make my conclusions on that. So when I do my critique videos, the rest of you who listen with your ears and your mind also hear the same thing that I hear. That's why we resonate. That's why you subscribe to this channel. That's what this is all about. But for the other people who are just like, oh, he's just being mean. I'm hearing mean words. He's being mean. Then everything up here shuts down. That's where the biggest disconnect is. And it has a lot to do with feelings. So today we're going to be continuing the coverage on the whole, you know, whether or not you have a business thing. And I feel as if like most of the pushback stems from a person's ego. Don't tell me I don't have a business. You know, I finally registered something. I'm a business title owner, et cetera, right? But there's a couple of things that people need to understand first, okay? When we are just loosely using the language, we're just a couple of friends, dinner party, backyard barbecue. You call it whatever you want to call it. You say it's a business. I'm not going to be a stickler for language. You could be a reseller. I'll ask you, hey, how's business going? That doesn't mean it's a gotcha moment where you just go be like, oh, Peg just admitted that I have a business now. No, it's because there's no reason to just, you know, stir up drama for no reason, because we're just having a beer and trying to have a good time. But when it comes to the business education topic, and then you want to know for sure, right? Black or white answer. Do I have a business right now? Is this still just at its hustle phase, or is it a business yet? And this question is incredibly important for people, because this is the only way you know where you're currently at, what stage you're at. And then false equivalence will get you false expectations. So if you already believe that you have a business, then why would you make any significant structural changes to it? You would just keep on keeping on. But then the moment that you're able to stop, put your ego aside, and then ask other established business owner, what is a business? What is actually a business? And then they take the time to explain it to you. Now you know what you got to do in order to level up. Okay. I never understood people who said, well, what if I don't want to level up? Well, that's a silly argument. Okay. That's like going to a knitting channel and then saying, well, what if I don't want to crochet? I don't know. Then what are you doing here? That's my question, right? I'm not looking to make more, but what, you're already doing that. So what is the incessant need to tell that to me, right? I'm here to help people make money. If anything, if you're watching reseller channels for the sake of making money, then I'm doing the exact same thing, except offering a better pathway beyond what just reselling is. But if you're going to make it into like this whole identity or whatever, then you're gatekeeping yourself from being able to learn anything. So let me get into explaining about reselling and whether or not it's a business, all that jazz. Okay, the best way to really help people who only listen and feel with their hearts, okay, is to come from a lens of explaining like what love is, right? Now, when you're a teenager to when you're a young adult to when you're a newlywed, or when you just started, your family and you have kids now, to when you're an old married couple, I promise you, on every single stage, everybody's going to give you a different definition of love. Am I right? And at later stages, when people have a lot more experience, because only when, you're at the later stages, you've been through all those stages. You know what it's like to be that person, but it doesn't work the other way around. A young person doesn't know what it's like to be an old person. An old person knows what it was like to be a young person, right? So the thing is, when you come back and ask the rest of us who's made it, crossed over to the other side, that this is an established business, this is what a business actually is. And if you ask us, we all have not necessarily the same definition, but we all have the same description to describe what it is. You've heard when people say, love is patient, love is kind. If you love something, set it free. If it comes back, you've heard all that stuff. And there's really no way to really, really try to explain it to people. You have to go and feel it, right? So though I'm trying to make this lesson in a way that's very relatable to everybody to understand what we're trying to say here. So when you are, let's say, you started a family and you start teaching your teenagers, right, a little bit more about love. Love is kind, love is patient, blah, 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 like all that other stuff, right? You're trying to be condescending? You're trying to look them down? No, you're a person with wisdom trying to share it with somebody younger so that they get what? A leg up. They get a better understanding. That is the whole intention of trying to tell people they don't have a business. It's not to mock them. It's not to belittle them. And if you are already locked in, like, I hate Mason, everything he says, he's just trying to destroy me, then you gatekeep yourself out of learning anything. I can't help you, okay? Because you're stuck on that. So it's kind of like this. When Pete from Craigslist Hunter started explaining to people that, like, no, working in your business, it's because you chose to, but you don't need to. Okay. But if you are like a solo guy working from home, blah, blah, no, my friend, that's not a business just yet. So that's not exactly the way that I would explain it. But both of us are pretty much describing the same thing. I know where he's going with this, and I fully agree with it. So let's get into the real meat and potatoes of what constitutes a business. Okay. So the question is, whatever it is your business is, what is it designed to do? So because we can't talk about everything and all sorts of business because that's way too much to unpack, we're going to focus on what we're all doing here, which is e-commerce, intangible goods. That's what we're doing. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to generate sales, okay, and fulfill orders every single day. That is the daily task that needs to be done. And you could design a system around that. Now, it's very important to understand that when we say system, do not confuse it with standard operating procedures versus business systems. Okay. So, what is a standard operating procedure? It's a list of tasks in a certain succession. And the purpose of it is to ensure quality and speed. It's to make things more streamlined. That doesn't mean that you are guaranteeing daily outcomes. When you have a system that guarantees daily outcomes, now we're moving into actually having a business territory. So my goods go from China into Amazon FBA, and then they store it in their warehouse. So they're the sorting centers. So they got to do all the picking and packing and then shipping all that stuff out. And if somebody calls in sick or whatever, they have other people to cover for it. So when people are placing sales, it's going to get done. I didn't wake up today. It's going to get done. No matter what happens, it's going to get done. So just because I still have to make a phone call every now and then to say, okay, how's the inventory right now? Is it low? Let me place another order and then have and then coordinate the shipping and the tracking labels and stuff to send it in. That's periodic maintenance. And every single business needs periodic maintenance. There's no such thing as building a machine that runs perpetually on its own forever with zero maintenance. There's just no such thing. So the fact that you still have to do a little maintenance here and there, little adjustments here and there, and then also, you want to add more items so that you expand your streams of income. That's not some kind of gotcha that like, oh, I see you're still working in your business. You're hustling just like us too. That's not the same thing, because you can't design something that will just, imagine stuff and design stuff from the ground up. That's wild. That's amazing. That's better than AI, right? So what we're talking about with the business itself that is separate from you, you've designed the engine. You're the engineer. This is the engine. So when you are two separate things, right? You're not the engine inside of your operation. That's when it goes from a hustle into a business. So a hustle, to understand it, is very simple, right? You have to wake up and hustle, then it's a hustle. When we'll take really, really silly examples, right? When a drug dealer says, I'm out here hustling, what does that mean? Because he has to stand on the corner, watch out for cops, sell whatever he's got in his pockets. I don't know, something. So it's him in the moment doing the work. But when you're a kingpin and you have like a whole bunch of, little, baby gangsters and stuff like that, you got a whole fleet of them. You have distribution, you have enforcers, you have underbosses and stuff. There you go. That's my system. The system, it's a full business system of employment. So that's what I mean. You have to be able to hear this stuff so that you could rethink what's going on in your operation, of what I need to change in order to go from A to B, and you will be in a better place for it. Or you are very well aware that this is currently a hustle right now. I'm happy where I am. This is fine, right? This way, you're not led into false expectations. Otherwise, the worst thing that could happen is what? People who keep calling something a business, expecting business-like results, 5 years later, we haven't really made much progress. So the video that I wanted to share with you guys today is another David Belial one. This is one of the, I'm just going to say it, okay? This is one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard in a long, long time. Literally, he takes most of my talking points of an explanation why you currently don't have a business yet, and then says that it's a business anyways. That's how crazy this whole video is. And the takes just get wilder and wilder. And then he starts to, bring up a whole bunch of other technical things that, from my perspective, I could hear he doesn't really know what he's talking about. Here we go.
But one of the ones that I get all the time is that, this is not even a business. That is just a hustle. And I just want to give my 2 cents on it and explain two different viewpoints within the same just eBay reselling business.
Now, here's the thing. I try to be very gentle about it. I try to explain that reselling, the way you guys are currently doing it, it's not a business just yet. Okay. There needs structural changes before it becomes an actual business. It's not that kind of snotty attitude where, man, that's not even a real, like trying to upset people. That's the difference. Okay. So whatever comments that he's getting and stuff, this is coming from people who are just, straight up hating. That's something completely different. But once we get into the educational discussion, right? Academically, okay, what's going on here? Listen to this.
So, what is even a business? I just went on good old ChatGPT. Give me a description of what the IRS sees as a business.
So you don't know what a business is. And that's why you defer to ChatGPT. This is the worst thing that any content creator could ever do, right? Defer to ChatGPT and then use ChatGPT as a lens of authority. Because ChatGPT, I promise you, I could get it to say either way. I could get it to recommend single motherhood as a good thing. I could get it to, say that reselling is a business, and I could get it to say that reselling is not a business. It's what you input into it. A lot of people don't understand that ChatGPT ultimately, at the end of the day, is just like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. It's designed for attention retention. So it tries its best to be agreeable because it wants you to remain on the app as long as possible. Every company is fighting for attention. Attention is the market, is the money market for a lot of large companies these days. Once you understand that, then you know what's going on here. ChatGPT is something to help you organize your thoughts. You still have to be the smartest person in the room at the end of the day and proofread what it spits out.
So it could be a small business as a sole proprietorship, a partnership, an LLC, S corporation, C corporation, and nonprofit organization. So those are the things that are seen as a business within the United States under the IRS.
Hey, great. Those are a list of things that you could register. Great. Now you have a business? No. All you have is some papers. It's just some letters of a corporation. You still got to put in the work. You still got to do something. It's not a business just yet, right? You're telling me that you went to the city clerk and now you got your first sole proprietorship and now you have a business now? Not yet. That's my point. Not yet.
Most people that sell on eBay are under a sole proprietorship. So you are seen as a business within the United States. For the most part, semantics set aside, it is a business to just sell on eBay. Now, is it a very efficient business? I would say that it is not for most people that sell on eBay. I would say that I have my eBay business optimized to the point where I don't have to do most of the work and I can take a month off and it can still be running and still be generating a great income. But I would say that most people are not in that bucket. So I don't have a business either, though, where I can fully detach myself from it for a year and it can still grow month to month and still progress because it still relies on me a lot. It relied on me a lot to get it to this point, and it still relies on me to run to a certain extent.
And therefore, it's still a hustle because it relies on you a lot. Why is this so hard to accept? I'll tell you why. The emotional charge of it. You tell me I'm not a business owner? Go nuts. Listen, there's a lot of very respectable, high-paying hustles out there. You have a private practice, you're a lawyer, you're an art dealer, you're a consultant like me. You know what I mean? When you think about a singer like Taylor Swift, okay? What is the concert? What is the CD sales? So the CD sales is the business because it's created into a replenishable product. And then that gets sold, right? Copies and copies. But she still has to show up to the concert. So each gig that you do, right? That's still you hustling. I'm out here hustling with my microphone. Why is this so difficult to understand? And everything needs to be under the same umbrella term of business. it's one thing to use the language loosely just in passing because, you know what I mean. I know what you mean. That's fine. But again, we are here right now trying to have the business discussion so that we could really get granular with it and then explain, okay, here's what it is, here's what it's not yet. What breaks the threshold to this so that I'm over to the other side. So now it's all about refining these business systems, et cetera, right? That is the important discussion to have because that's what will be life-changing. Labels don't change your life. Recognition from the IRS, it won't change your life. You just get taxed more. That's all it actually does.
Don't run it. Stuff starts going bad. The quality starts to dwindle a lot because I still have to manage people. It is still on me. It's still on my back. It's still on my shoulders. Most people that are doing eBay right now, they have to put vacation mode. They can't take a month off. They take a month off, won't add new stuff to their store, but it's still a business. It's
just... These are all my talking points, right? If you get old, sick, injured, tired, you can't go back, like all these things. And that's why it's not there yet, because a business has to be able to operate independently of you to get the daily tasks done, right? Sales, fulfillment are still going to happen. No, it's not going to flourish without you, right? People still need to be the head of the company, from, your Steve Jobs to your Tim Cook, where nobody believed in Tim Cook in the beginning, but look at where it is now. Right? So it still needs a leader. That doesn't make it still a hustle because the sales are still getting done. People are still buying iPhones.
just a business where it relies on the person extremely heavily. God forbid something happens to anyone that sells on eBay like that. Pretty much the business is over overnight. That is the case with my business right now. Even with YouTube, I consider YouTube and eBay very similar to me, because if I don't pump out videos, yes, I get views overall within my channel. If I take a year off, I'm still going to get views, but it's not the same like as when I'm consistently posting. But if I'm out of the equation, there's no more YouTube channel. If I'm out of my eBay store, there's no more eBay.
How does this argument make any effing sense? Because you're saying, right, all of the things that it's lacking, but it's a business anyways. What makes it a business? He never gets into it. He never ever gets into it why it's still a business. You're just saying all the things that despite, it's still a business. Yo, this whole video is all about coddling feelings. Everybody's incessant need to be labeled a business owner. But what does the label do for you? The academics, the understanding of structural mechanics, that will help you. This does nothing. This is toxic positivity. Everybody else who says it's not a business, oh, they're just hating. Let them hate, bro. Do you think when your mom comes into the room and says, clean your room, oh, that Karen, she's just being a hater? Is that what you think? You think that's what's going on? When your father tries to give you some life advice and say, listen, the reason we have to be respectful to each other and we have to do et cetera, and it's beneficial for you, et cetera, like he gives you a whole life lesson. He's just hating, Let the haters hate. What? This is toxic positivity at its finest, because this was what keeps you incredibly ignorant to real education.
Right? So most people, they are in the phase where they take a day off, 2 days off, no new money gets generated. Yes, you'll get sales, but that'll be it. If they take a vacation, they have to go on vacation mode. They have no one to ship, and they have no system to really take a month off if they absolutely have to.
But it's still a business.
Most people are in that bucket, but it's still a business.
It's still a business.
A business. It's just not a business like other businesses in the United States that, they have general managers, they have managers, they have supervisors, they have employees, and they have CEOs. It's not that kind of business. It is a lower level business. And let's just call it what it is. Now, A lot of people might not like to hear that, right? That this is a lower level business. But that's the beauty of it. I like.
Okay, so for the people who are incredibly butthurt the first time I rolled out that, like, look, it's currently a hustle, not quite a business just yet, right? How is this any less condescending if I said what he just said right now? I have a higher business. You have a lower business. You're all operating lower businesses. You feel better? You feel better being called a lower business? This is the same yardstick with different markings on it. I would argue it is even worse to tell people that they have a lower, inefficient business, but it's still a business. It's just straight up gaslighting people for no reason. It would be better for them to recognize, okay, it's currently a hustle right now, and let's get into A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z things you need to do to make those structural changes. So now we have the machine, right? The machine can't just be yourself, because humans are inconsistent by nature. You get old, sick, tired, injured. It happens. Maybe you're just not even in the mood today. It happens. But when there are actual systems in place where you have multiple employees to the point of covering redundancies, meaning that somebody doesn't show up, there's somebody else to cover. That's exactly what Amazon FBA is all about. There's so many employees in there. Yeah, maybe some of them couldn't make it today. Your sales are still going to get done. It's still going to get done. So that's what constitute an actual business. And there are many ways to achieve that. My pathway is through Amazon FBA. Craigslist Hunter Pete, his way is to have his own team of well-trained employees to do this. So you have to leverage something. Again, coming back to the whole what is love discussion, it's really hard to explain it to people. But ultimately, everybody who truly has an established business is all going to roughly give you the same description. We're all in agreement with each other. So this is not me, semantics, making up definitions, twisting words and stuff like that. Ultimately, when you get every single established business owner in a room together, they will all be in agreement to this. And it comes back to saying that, like, look, when you have those other explanations that are based on labels, right? Registration, recognition, all that stuff, it doesn't do anything for people. That's not what it actually is. The best example, another example I could give you guys, right? It's kind of like a Bigfoot sighting. Most people have an idea what Bigfoot looks like, and then there's the rest of us who've actually seen it. And then when we tell you, no, he's actually really small and short, and he looks like a Furby. And other people are just like, nah, no way. What are you talking about? You know, Bigfoot is like this. He was the Sasquatch. He's the mountain Yeti, you know? You've never seen the drawings before? That's what this whole argument is like. That's what it actually feels like, you know? By the time you actually make it to the other side, you've built it, you've done it, it's very, very different.
I like it because anyone can really start out of their closet, just like I did. This was my first big business that I started by myself, and I started it out of my closet.
Right. So when you started out of your closet, it's already a business. That's what you're saying. You guys buy that? All of you who watch the channel are reselling in some shape, form, or fashion. So when you took their advice and just started, right, for no money, out of your own closet, a couple of things that you owned and stuff, that was already a business? That's what you're saying? How many of you actually think that? That, like, you know, I pawned off a couple of my, you know, old sneakers or a handbag or whatever. That's a business. That's gaslighting. That's very, very gaslighting. Okay? When I first started in the beginning, 20 years ago, I was the same way. You couldn't tell me I don't have a business, even though I'm literally sleeping in my warehouse. I slept in my warehouse for a whole year, and I only went home to basically shower and wash my feet. Okay, because I didn't have my whole system down pat just yet. And I wasn't too sure exactly when I could start hiring my first employees. So I did everything myself, my own customer service, my own packing, right? My own, warehouse organization and stuff like that. I didn't start off as a reseller. So you could have told me like, I'm not, building a business here, right? And looking back now, I will tell you at the time, I was trying to build a business. Wasn't a business quite just yet. Was I doing business? Yes. Did I have business like elements in it? Yes, of course. So you have those things. That is the truth. That is if we're trying to be precise and accurate. But again, guys, if we're just at a backyard barbecue, I'm just going to be like, hey, how's business? How's business doing right now? We're just talking freely. There's no reason to be a stickler for language. We're just hanging out,
I was freaking 13, 14 years old. So that's how I started.
So you were 13, 14 years old and you sold a pair of sneakers out of your closet. That was a business? That's what you're saying? That's what you're telling people out here? Toxic positivity, man. I'll show you the comments later.
And now I built it up to what it is now. And now it's allowed me to get into other businesses and start other things and transfer my money that I've generated from this.
Right. So explain the difference in the transformation of what it was then to what it is now, and where it crosses the threshold to where you could say, okay, now this is a business. That's the distinction that people need to hear to understand so they know what to do. That's education, teaching people what needs to be done. Not to just say, well, it's all a business either way. What? Then people have no idea where they are. You see what I'm saying? How do you get your bearings? It's like just looking at a map in the mall. Where's the whole "you are here" arrow? This map does nothing for me if there's no markings. I don't know which, so I can't piece it together. Right? I need that "you are here" arrow plus the largest, retailer store like a Nordstrom or whatever. I'm like, okay, so Nordstrom is that way. I'm here. And now I can start to what? Triangulate my position. But what you're doing here now is that it's still a business. Even when you're lacking this and you're lacking that and you're lacking all these things and you're 13 years old, and you're selling sneakers out of your closet, still a business. What?
To other things. And that is beautiful. That is great. But I do want to get into higher levels of business to where maybe I could sell something in the future, right? But I don't want to talk too much about that. Is eBay a business or not? Yes, it is, but it is still extremely reliant on the person that runs it. It is extremely reliant on that. And, most people don't have health insurance. Most people won't have a retirement plan set up when they're doing eBay. So they're limited, right? And that's why I try to make the most money possible. So I do have health insurance. So I do have a backup plan.
What is the purpose of bringing this up? By the time you could afford health insurance from doing eBay, now it's a business. It's just absurd, right? I know that's not what he's saying, but it's like, why even bring it up? Like, what are people supposed to take away from this, Have
excess money to invest into other things, because if something happens and we can't work for 6 months, we break our leg, we don't have disability. We can't generate money like we can. So that's why I try to make excess amount of money, extra money, more money than I need for security.
So during that 6 months of a broken leg, is it a business? It's still a business, right? Like no matter what, it's still a business. Even when it's not operating anymore, it's still a business. Even when your garage gate is closed and it says closed for business, still a business. Like when is it not a business? It's never not a business. Everything is a business, right? If I traded you an apple for 50 cents, that was a business. Yeah, I mean, it was fleeting. It was just 5 seconds, but that was a business at that moment. That's what we're saying. This is what happens when you have people who just have no business background whatsoever. I don't even know if he went to college, but to be honest, okay? In the beginning, he said that, he's been doing this for 6 years. He's 28 years old. You backtrack 6 years. This is what you just did, like straight out of college at best.
Right. So
no
a
life
lot of
experience.
people kind of live in paycheck to paycheck with eBay, and they're happy with that. But when something happens wrong, that's when it's a problem. When you're out for a month, your items don't get shipped. Yes, you can have help from family. Yes, you can have someone to just come help out when something bad happens. But for the most part, you don't have like an employee. Most people are doing it completely by themselves. So that business is just a handicap business. It's eBay's already a
It's a handicap business, guys. All right, so here's the spectrum, okay? I have an established business, you have a lower business, and the rest of you guys who are injured, you have a handicap business. What are we talking about here? I don't want to hear any more nonsense, okay? I got to make this crystal clear to people. All of you are 100%, especially you haters, okay? 100%, we are all in agreement that there are bad apples in this reseller space, correct? Because if there weren't, then where do the myths come from? Just about every creator has created a video on reseller myths, 7 myths, 5 myths, all this stuff, right? So where do they come from? Who's spreading them? There's some bad actors somewhere. So what is this that we're witnessing right now? So the moment I point a finger, this is it. This is where the bad stuff comes from. Oh no, Peg is being mean. He's so unkind. So what are you talking about? This is what you're feeding people? Lower businesses and handicap businesses?
Lower level entry of a business, and then people are still at this level. There's higher levels within this itself, right? When you're dealing with pre-owned items, nothing brand new. These are all pre-owned items that you got to hunt by yourself. So that's my thoughts on it. It is still a business, but there's still different levels on the business. And in order to, alleviate how much you need to...
Right. So what's level 0 before it becomes a business then? Let's say there's different levels, right? Define your levels. Explain the levels. Right now, so far, we're talking about, despite all the things that are missing, not being able to work, not being able to do stuff consistently, right? You being the one who needs to operate everything, getting stuff out of your closet, being 13 years old, still, everything is a business. Still? Wow, it's real easy to get into business. Holy moly.
Be doing everything. You need to make more money.
If anything, guys, if what he's saying is true, then forget about this business owner title. It means diddly squat. If being a business owner could mean anything from Tim Cook to a 13-year-old boy selling some old Nikes on Macari, then there's no prestige in having this business owner title anymore. Does that make sense? You gotta earn this. And the question is, okay, Peg, what do I gotta do to earn this? I will tell you the same thing that Pete will tell you. This is so wild at this take.
Right. And you need to grow it faster. And you need to get more profit so that you can afford to get some help. So you buy your freedom back, and then you can take a week off. You can take a month off. You can go on 2 vacations a year. You can afford to have health insurance. You can afford to get a retirement plan going.
So you just do reselling, right? And then the way you buy back your time is that you just start making a lot of money. And now you could buy back your time and you could go on vacations. This is just all feel good filler BS nonsense. How? Everybody, I know all of you at home, you want to know how. How do I make more money? How do we do it? Never really gets into it. And then when a couple of things that he says later, it just gets wilder and wilder.
The Roth IRA, something, a
Roth
401k,
IRAs.
whatever you want to do. I personally have an S corporation. I was doing a sole proprietorship when I first started. By default, everyone kind of falls into that category. But then
okay, I have an S corp. Okay, he's going to get into S corp. Why are you bringing up S corp? For what? Okay, I want you to hear his explanation, and then I'll tell you the advantages of what an S corp is.
I started getting employees. I switched over to S corporation, and then I started doing things differently that was advised to by my accountant and the person that files my taxes. So that's what they advised me to do. And then they advised me to invest my excess money into real estate and investing into other businesses as well.
Why has it got to be an S corp for you to invest your excess money into other things? you don't have to, guys, you don't have to own a business to go invest in other things. You just go invest in other things, right? You want to put your money in S&P and ETFs and stuff like that. So the whole thing about like Roth IRAs and whatever, you got to have money to put it in there. So we got to make money first. The question is, how do we make money? How do we make more money? How do we scale? How do we break certain plateaus? Never gets into it. This is what I mean. Complete airball, waste of time, these channels.
And taking a salary for myself, that's all little stuff that I had to do. But, I started at the bottom and worked my way up. But this is one of the few businesses where you can't start at the bottom.
That's it. The S Corp thing, it's over. Let me explain S Corporation for you guys, okay? If you don't currently make enough money, an S Corporation will hurt you. You have to make a lot more money in excess, okay? So how does this work? The first thing you need to do is sit down with your accountant or some kind of financial expert, okay? And then figure out what a reasonable salary is. So whatever your industry is, you're a consultant, plus how much you currently make, how much you're generating because of what it is that you do. You're a private practice lawyer, whatever, okay? You have to, based on that, pay yourself a reasonable wage where it's believable to the IRS, where they're not going to be like, that's really low. What do you think you're doing? You see what I'm saying? And then all the money that you earned in excess to that can go into distribution. So what is distribution? It is not taxable for the employment tax. So you could save about like 15% of taxes when your excess money goes into distribution. And then you could, you could do whatever you want with your excess money, right? And then it's advised with your excess money to, go invest in other things. And if anything, that money is just more valuable money because it was taxed less. That's the advantage of having an S corp. But you have to be earning that much in order to do so. Otherwise, the base fees that you have to pay is higher. He doesn't get into this. He just says, my accountants, that's what they advised me to do. Yeah, why? Doesn't get into it. Something's off here. Either you're lying or you just heard the term S Corp and then, hey, that's what we did, or that's what your, daddy filed for you. But why? I have no idea why. Read a book, David. Like, this is just, don't get on camera and just start BSing people, because somebody who actually has an S Corp as well and understands it is going to bust you. This is crazy, this video.
You can start out of your house, and that's the beauty of it. And I'm all for working hard, but I'm also for working very smart as well, and trying to make the most money possible. And the only way I saw myself making more money was to get my product in bulk and get it wholesale. And that was really the big unlock, and that's what I talk about a lot on this channel.
This is bad advice because it's overly simplistic, right? I just get it in bulk. Okay, you have to have proven the item first. If you source a one-off item and it was wrong, it didn't sell, then it's a small mistake. You buy something in bulk and it doesn't sell, then it just becomes a big mistake. So the idea of replenishables is inherently baked into it, which means an option. It's optionality. It doesn't, just because something is replenishable doesn't we're not trying to be focused on the whole multi-quantity of it. It's that when you initially tried it, you have the option to get more. Why would you reorder something that doesn't work? So if you are currently doing replenishables, that means the risk has already been removed from this. So now acquiring it in bulk and being able to lower the price on this, right? It becomes a smart business move. If you're just getting random stuff, you better have a way to get rid of random stuff. And currently, he has his mystery palettes and mystery boxes.
Is buying my time back with the product, getting delivered here where I work out of. That has been a huge unlock, and when I buy in bulk, we can process it very quickly, and the profit allows us to still have a worker.
What? Let's go back a little bit, okay? He says buy in bulk allows us to process it very quickly. Is that what he said?
Where I work out of, that has been a huge unlock, and when I buy in bulk, we can process it very quickly, and the profit allows us to still have a worker.
When we buy it in bulk, it allows us to process it very quickly. How does this make any sense in any universe? You have a bulk amount, so now it's faster? Like, what are you saying? This is what I mean. Like you upload stuff, you don't even proofread it, right? Your average person that watches videos, they want to be kind, they want to be nice. And then this thing, starts to build a momentum in the wrong direction. Everyone's like, oh, you're doing great, David, let's go, rooting for you. It's all this stuff, right? But what is he saying?
So then it is kind of on autopilot now, because now it's just ordering, putting it on eBay, shipping it out. So that is the beauty of it. When you are sourcing everything yourself, going to thrift stores, going to flea markets, going to garage sales, going to Goodwill bins every single time, it is heavily reliant on you.
Right. So this is against the typical advice, right? This is basically saying, just get more stuff to list. While at the same time, people will tell you the real advice is just because you list more doesn't necessarily mean it will sell. But what you're saying right here is that I got to get in bulk, I got to get in wholesale, and I just got to do a lot of it, and then I'm going to make a lot of money. It's not necessarily true. So you have to get more granular with the details of this. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of baloney. You're just trying to hype people in a single direction, oversimplify so that it seems enticing. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Just list it. You just got to get it in bulk, Just do more. Go fast. Go hard. Where's the strategy?
Everything. And normally the people that are doing that, hunting every single item, hunting every single, thing they gotta eat, they gotta still come back and cook it up. Now we just order the food in bulk and someone else cooks it, and we have food to eat, right? So there are different levels to it. I'm not trying to make myself seem like I'm at the tippity top level of this.
Okay, so you're saying it's still, right? So before, you want to use like this hunter-gatherer thing. I got to go out, I got to hunt, I got to bring it back, I got to cook it myself. Now I can order things in bulk and then somebody else cooks it, but they're all still businesses. So where's the distinction? There's no distinction. If there's no distinction, then there's no prestige, right? If everybody had the exact same thing, the same amount of money, then who's rich? Nobody's rich, right? You need the good to know the bad. Or how does a person gauge stuff? You need the up, you need the down, you need the left, the right, like everything, the yin yang, right? You need both. Or how do you gauge anything? What is happiness in a world where there's just zero sadness, like zero sadness, right? So what is happiness really? Nobody would know, because there's nothing to compare and contrast to.
But there are levels to this of freedom and excess money, so you can run it like a business a little better. Because I would say most people don't have workers on reselling on eBay with pre-owned stuff. Most people don't do that because they can't afford it. because once they pay them, the profit's gone. That's why I always talk about making, you know, 100,000 a month, right, on eBay, so that I can afford to do all that stuff. Because whatever number it is at the top, you cut it in half with eBay fees, taxes, and cost of goods and all that stuff, right? So I try to.
So if you want to make $100,000 a month, you just got to start talking about it. What is this? What is this? Where's the part where we get into the how part? This is something that I've stressed, right? Most people, it's very difficult to hire in reselling. Everybody will tell you this because the margins are not there to just share and then have somebody else to do it. And on top of this, one of the most difficult things is that currently reselling, the whole cycle itself, the whole game plan is overly simplistic. So if somebody was to work under your wing, they'll figure the whole thing out for themselves. And they only have to make a little more money than what you pay them so that they would be better off on their own. But what they earn for you has to be significantly above what you pay them in order for their salary to be justified. So that's why it doesn't work. How did David Pelayo start off? If you follow the channel, you would know that it starts off with his sisters. They're all family. If they're not family, they figure this out. They just sign up for an account themselves, just start from scratch themselves.
To make as much money as humanly possible with this business so then I can afford to do all that stuff. Because if you're making just enough for yourself, you don't have enough to pay someone else, right? So that's why I advocate to try to make as much money as possible. Try to have a bigger store. Try to grow this thing as fast as possible. Work really hard at first and then get it off the ground and then get some help. Get a little bit of AI. Get a little bit of excess, just time-saving aspects to the business to move faster and make more money. Because
I don't like answers that leads to more questions, okay? So how do we make more money? Well, just got to get faster. Faster how? And get a little AI. AI how? It just leads to even more questions.
Because when you move faster, you make more money. So if you guys want to see this video right here, I highly encourage checking that out. My entire system, step by step, on how I made 1.4 million on eBay. It's like a 30-something minute video, 30-minute video of me just explaining.
There will be a video on that one. It is his whiteboard video, and the takes get increasingly crazier and crazier, like just more and more absurd. Okay, I think for that video, I'm gonna put together a watch party, and it's gonna be a good time, guys. It's good because that video just gets funnier and funnier towards the end because of how seriously he takes himself on this, but the stuff that he's saying in that video. We'll get there when we get there.
Explaining my entire system, top to bottom, from when we get an item to the time it gets shipped out, and all the little steps in between. Extremely detailed. It's probably my best video ever. If you guys want to check that out. But yeah, guys, most people don't have a business. They have an overworked side hustle, and that's why it's super important to have a system, have a connection to get product.
What the? What? Go back one more time.
But yeah, guys, most people don't have a business. They have an overworked side hustle.
Okay, so what's the distinction? Because you just went all the way down to this person had to do everything themselves and they can't even go on vacation or whatever, but it's still a business. And now, where are we? 11:07, 11 minutes into the video, all the way in the back where people have clicked off already because most people don't watch your videos all the way through. Now you say.
But yeah, guys, most people don't have a business. They have an overworked side hustle. And that's why it's super important to have a system, have a connection to get product so you're not chasing everything. And then it won't rely solely on you. Then when there's extra profit.
Right. So when it doesn't solely rely on you, that's what Pete says. That's what Peg says. And now you're regurgitating the right thing. You're a douche, man. You're such a douche. My goodness. How can you do this to people? What? This is what we're trying to say the whole time. When it's not all just reliant on you, because a single human will be inconsistent, and we can all accept that. So what do we do? What do we do to ensure that all the things that need to get done daily in your business gets done? Nor sleet, nor hail, right? So if anything, when you think about like the post office, the postman, nor sleet, nor hail, nor snow, like nothing's going to stop us, right? So if one person can't make it, then we'll dispatch somebody else. There'll be somebody to take his place so that the mail still gets delivered. It's got to get done. That is a system.
You can grow the business with help. And you don't need a ton of help. You don't need a ton of employees. Even just one person on the side helping you out changes everything, guys. So obviously, eBay is a business in my eyes.
Having a single employee will take you one step closer. That's the honest truth. I'm just saying, let's be honest with people over here, because don't give people false equivalents for no reason. Don't give people false hope for no reason. I'm not trying to, diminish what reselling is. I'm trying to deflate it back down to its normal size so that you guys see what it is. I think reselling is an excellent way to get into e-commerce, and you should definitely use it as a springboard into better things. But the grift is to just remain here and then tell people that, it's a business. There's something inherent, there's just something very, very wrong with that, because it'll lead you down a path of false expectations. You know what that means? It means that you'll find out that you were lied to 4 or 5 years later. Can you imagine what that feels? Take any situation in your life right now where you discovered it was a lie 4 or 5 years later, and think about how you felt at that moment. That's what I'm trying to prevent for you guys.